Tobago. Welcome to another edition of Scoreboard here on ICNTT. It's always a pleasure to be in your company every Tuesday between the hours of 8 to 9. We will bring you something relevant in sport in Trinidad and Tobago. Before I get into tonight's program, I just want to say a big shout out to the Trinidad and Tobago under 15 cricket team. Recently won the under 15 title. Congratulations, guys. Also to our Carifta athletes. They came back with a haul of 24 medals over the weekend, 5 gold, 7 silvers and 12 bronze. Well done to our athletes. Also, this coming Saturday, the MAP Juvenile Track and Field event will take place at the Mariamton Stadium from 10 a.m. Please go out and support the youngsters as they showcase their talents. As a MAP Juvenile Track and Field meet this Saturday at 10 a.m. On tonight's program, we're going to be talking rugby. You know, from time to time, you have seen a lot of coverage with the rugby on ACTN, and we intend to keep that up, especially where the women's team have qualified for the Pan American Games, and also there are other teams that are in training right now for major tournaments. So we're going to be talking tonight on rugby, and to let you all know where and how far rugby has gone in Trinidad and Tobago. Joining me in the first half of this program is the executive members of the union. I have with me Carl Muckett, the honorary assistant secretary. Welcome to ACTN.
Thank you.
And I have the honorary secretary, am I correct?
That's correct.
Maria Thomas, welcome. And we have the president himself on show. You know, most of the time presidents, they always try to duck and run and not really come and, you know, and face the public. But we have Colin Peters here with us, the president. And we're going to be chatting a bit later on. We'll bring on some of the coaches who coaching the other teams to chat about what's happening with their charges. But ladies and gentlemen, welcome again. Before we get into the whole 2019 rugby season, let's go back a bit to 2018 and what are some of the success and the achievements of the various teams. Let me start with you, Mr. President.
Okay, morning. Thanks for having us. 2018 was a challenging year for us. One of the highlights was that the women's team qualified for the Pan American Games. The men's team missed the qualification, I can say, by 2 seconds. One mistake on the field, and it ended up throwing the team out of contention. Other than that, we were able to complete all of our local fixtures for the year, which is an achievement. The downside of last year was the fact that the women 10s, who were the defending champions from 2017, and the men's under 19s, 15s, who placed third in the 2017, 16 and 15 in the regional championships, were unable to travel because of lack of funding. Right, so that was a really setback for us. What I can say, in 2019, for the first time in the history of Trinidad and Tobago Rugby, we have 4 separate teams training for regional and international competitions. So we have the women's sevens team, senior women's sevens team, training for the Pan American Games and 2020 Olympic qualifiers. We also have the men's sevens team training for the Olympic qualifiers. All of these are in July. Well, the Pan Am is in later July, and the sevens are in early July. We have the women's 10s, which is basically a developmental team, and the
when you say a development team,
well, these are younger people,
okay,
right? Because we as I say, we separate them from the senior women's team. Because the senior women's team has 2 competitions in July, which will be the Olympic qualifier on the 6th and 7th, and the Pan Am Games late in July. Right? The women's 10s plays on the 19th to the 21st of July, and the men's under 19s also play 15s play in July from the 18th to the 21st also, both of them in Barbados. Right, so as I say, we have 4 separate teams training in Trinidad and Tobago right now, right, which is an achievement, and it shows the development of rugby that Mr. Muckett will tell you about a little later on. I must give credit to the parents and families of the women's 10s developmental team and the men's under 19s team, because again, the funding is short for those two teams, and the parents and the players and other family members have stepped up and approaching corporate sponsors and putting their own money in order to ensure that these two teams don't miss another year of competition. You know, we keep talking about under 19s as development, but strange enough, the funding for the under 19s is not coming from the places where it normally comes from. Right? We are in discussion still to ensure that these two teams can travel to Barbados. We can't afford, because the rugby is growing so fast, we have another setback of another year of these two teams.
All you get sponsor, man, is election.
Well,
election coming up.
I am the eternal optimist.
Yeah, you'll get
so,
sponsor.
as I say, our deadline for informing Rugby Americas North, whether these two teams participate, and I mean, ultimate deadline is the end of this month.
There was an incident last year, I can't recall exactly how it was, but I think one of the teams was supposed to nearly get banned or something. So for now.
Right. Basically, we were thrown out of the competition last year. That is the men's 15s. Again, we didn't receive funding for them for this year. So they didn't take part in the competition this year, the regional competition this year. That's real unfortunate, because I mean, your whole time playing at youth level and under 23 is to graduate to the senior team and make a contribution to your country, right? So it's real unfortunate that for the second year, the men's 15s will not be participating. What happened last year, we won our first two games, and we were able in that competition to ask USA South, where we normally go to Miami to play against them. We were able to convince them to pay their money and come to Trinidad and Tobago to play us.
Yeah, I was at that game.
Right, I remember you were there at that game. And we won both the two first games.
Yeah, the USA.
Unfortunately, we were supposed to go to Cayman. And again, we couldn't raise the funding. And we were basically thrown out of the competition. We did some legal battles with it, reaching up to World Rugby, and we didn't get any further with that. Right, so that was basically the end of that challenge.
But that was only a ban for...
Just for that competition,
okay.
So instead of topping the group, we were thrown to the bottom of the group, basically.
Okay, you in charge of development, right?
Yeah.
Tell me a bit of what's happening right now with development with rugby.
All right. I think it's important to note that Trinidad and Tobago Rugby Football Union wants to be the dominant union in the region. In order to do that, we must avail ourselves to the best talent the country has to offer. As it is right now, or as it has been for the longest while, the rugby was more or less centralized to North. So most of the activity would take place in Port of Spain. So in attempting to reach wider geographies throughout the country, right now we are working on decentralizing the league. That is to say, we want to create a south zone, an east zone, the north zone, and Tobago as well.
Okay.
So the youth development program is essentially focused on that decentralizing mandate that we've given ourselves. So we have what we call youth development officers. We have three in the north, three in the south, three in the east, and the intention is for one for Tobago, but I mean, we're having some challenges in getting Tobago off, just as we're having challenges in the east and the south. We're more or less comfortable in the north, but we're still crossing T's and dotting I's, trying to get everything right in relation to that. So the three YDOs, they're responsible for 6 pockets of activity in the respective zones. So essentially what we would have 6 teams in the north, 6 teams in the south, 6 teams in the east, and 4 teams coming from Tobago. And the aim is we would have decentralized leagues. So the 6 teams in the respective zones will play amongst themselves. What that will do, it will actually cut down on the expenses required to participate in the sport. For example, we can't go to Toco and develop rugby, and Toco has to come to Port of Spain to play. So we'd have Sandy Grande all the way up to Toco playing amongst themselves. We have the South playing amongst themselves. We have the North playing amongst themselves. And what we'll do is we'll start with the intra-zone, and then the winners would play inter-zone. So we have the top teams from the respective zones play amongst themselves, the middle teams play amongst themselves, the bottom teams play amongst themselves, and these competitions will serve as talent identification per se for national selectors, as the technical committee will talk about in a while. But we're not just focused on creating the leagues. In order to create the leagues, we have to create the increased administrative density. So the executive in Port of Spain can administrate rugby in the east and in south and in north. So we're actually working on creating decentralized technical committees. So we're trying to work on a technical committee for the east, for the south.
Okay, so everybody will have their
the president, vice president, as the case may be, in the respective zones. And the executive, as it is known now, would be the central executive. So we'd have the North Zone executive, the South Zone executive, the East Zone, and we would be more or less, or the persons in this arrangement would be more or less the central executive, making a representation to RAN and to the government, as the case may be, while the respective executive in the zones would be looking after their business. One of the other things we want to focus on is we recognize that, notwithstanding that we would expose young persons to the sport throughout the country, less than 1% of 1% of those persons would actually make a national team. Okay. So our effort cannot simply be to get persons to play national rugby or to represent the country, but to develop young people as well. So we also focus on development through sport. And some of the things we have on the agenda include, we held a delinquency assistance program in January, where we took about 168 young persons to YTC. They toured YTC, the boys spoke to them. We had different speakers coming in and doing different programs with them. The aim is in the second quarter of the year, which is essentially by June 30th, we want to do a university fair. Okay. So we want to invite UTT, University of the Southern Caribbean, UWI, to come and talk about their programs and the entry requirements for the respective programs. We want to deal with that in the second quarter. In the third quarter, we want to do a career fair, where we get the defense force, prisons, protective services, banking industries, different organizations to come and talk about the careers that they have in their respective organizations and how students or young persons can prepare themselves for those kinds of activities. And in the final quarter, we want to do a major award function for young persons, not just the TTIFU award function where we focus on those who would have represented, but for young persons specifically. So these are some of the things we have going on in terms of the youth program. We recognize that in order for us to dominate or do well or go on the podium, there's been some talk that funding will be more so be going to persons who are likely to podium. But we recognize that people can't podium.
But you don't podium, let's say you have to start from here to podium.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're trying to do the groundwork. We're hoping that the persons in the positions recognize the usefulness or the importance of doing the groundwork, and of course with support in that regard. So we're taking it from ground zero and trying to go all the way to the top to meet the podium.
Okay, we have to take our first break. When we come back, I want to go across to Maria, because I think Maria has a lot to say. That's so? So we'll be right back after the short break.
Now changing your question.
What I would say, Steve, is this.
My first question was, I rolled back that tape.
I made my debut for Crystal Palace against Tottenham Hotspur.
My responsibility was to get the ball and make things happen offensively.
In all the time we've played together, I've always been the decoy. Welcome to Field of Dreams on ACTN. My name is Steve David, and I'm your host.
Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to another edition of Scoreboard here on ACT, and it's always a pleasure to be in your company every Tuesday evening between the hours of 8 and 9. What
Welcome to the new season of Football 101. I am your host, Joshua Matos.
Well, it's time for your weekly football news update. I love you, Messi.
Fortunately, kiss the badge, kiss the badge. Oh, what's that?
Welcome to this edition of the interview, and as you can see, I'm not alone on the set. I have Marcus, a Liverpool fan, and I have Shaquille.
Welcome back, Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome back to Scoreboard here at ACT, and I have the executive members of the Trinidad and Tobago Rugby Football Union here with me, and they are telling us a bit about what is happening with rugby. Maria, before the break, I said I was coming back to you. Increase in women taking part in rugby. Is there an increase? Is there a decrease? What have you seen from your standpoint?
Well, we've been seeing a steady increase in women participating in rugby. This is stemming a lot from the Schoolgirls League, where women are getting the opportunity to play at a school level, and that is a good introduction when they move into the club level of rugby. So because we have so many individuals playing at a club level and contending for positions on the national team, one of the really exciting things that's happened this year is we have, as Colin Peters mentioned already, a separate 10s team. Previously, the women's team, the same players would contend for positions on both the 10s and 7s teams for competition. So we now have two separate teams training, and it has been wonderful to see the turnout, because the 10s got an incredible turnout, which is very heartening. It means that we can develop more national players. It means that national players who may not be interested in playing 7s still have the opportunity to play 10s. And the ultimate regional goal is to get women playing 15s rugby. So with those numbers, it's showing that we are on our way to playing 15s rugby with women, which is the most inclusive of the rugby sports, because you have a position for everyone.
But so far, when you look back from 2018, 2019, you, as from where you sit, you are confident that women's rugby is in good hands.
We have been facing a lot of challenges, as is always mentioned. Funding is always at the top of that list. However, despite that, we do continue to grow. We continue to train. We have technical teams who have been looking at different ways that we can utilize the resources that we do have. And that's something that's very important. And it's really investing in ourselves so that we can continue to play rugby, continue to exceed the expectations that are there, and we have been performing better and better each year. As far as the women's track record, each year in competition we are performing better and better. Some of the things that have assisted with this are coaches. So we have our coaches for the national teams. We also have a lot of individuals who have become interested in learning to become coaches. And this means that at all levels of the sport, you have more coaches to coach teams, and with the development of the youth program, you're having more teams for coaches to coach. It's very difficult to learn a skill if you can't practice it. So that's something that is exciting, and we have been able to introduce new coaches and help coaches develop their skills in Trinidad and Tobago by having the diversity in the teams.
Now, you are a member of the national team. You're in training right now for the Pan American Games.
Yes.
Now, this is the first time that rugby team from Trinidad and Tobago has qualified, right? How's the training going? What are the mood in the camp, things like that?
Yes, that's correct. So it's very exciting because we have the Pan American Games and we also have the Olympic qualifier. So July is a rugby-packed month, and we have all been training. The coaches have taken a different approach, which I think is really beneficial in that we focused on our strength and conditioning and our skills. So because we have players from all over Trinidad and we need players from Tobago, so if you're in Tobago, we're looking for you, to make sure that the team is really rounded and we're getting skills and athletes from the entire country. That means that training can be difficult. So we have training at the HPU Hazley Crawford Stadium. We also have training at Raw Fitness, which is in South. And this is something that's really helped the athletes to make sure that they get in, they're making their gym sessions. Consistency is key when you're building your strength and conditioning. Skill sets, we come together as a team and we work on those things. Our days that we come together as an entire team are Mondays and Wednesdays. We are also introducing Saturdays. So as we get closer to competition, we train together more and more. I think it's really exciting to see how all of the work that people have been putting in on their own and the investments that they've been making are paying off when we come together as a group.
Mr. President, July is just around the corner. What is the union doing to sensitize the public and to get the public on board with this team going to the Olympic qualifiers and also the Pan American Games?
Okay, well, this is one of our first open interviews. We intend to engage the rest of the press. We always discuss this at an executive level. We meet every Thursday morning, executive at 7:30 a.m. And the plan is to do a media blitz, right? Get the players out there, get the players on interviews, do profiles of the players and get it into the print and electronic media. It's really ironic that you ask that because it's really a plan that we've been developing. All right, so it should unfold in the next couple of weeks. It will unfold because we've been talking to the coaches. The coaches have already been doing profiles of their players, and we're planning to do a media blitz. Right, I want to touch on, Maria talk about the coaches. We recently had 24 new coaches graduate in this level 1 certificate. It's conducted by Mr. Willard Panto. So the coaching is getting stronger, and as such we'll be able to reach more people, more areas, and the public will know more about rugby. Right? Mr. Muckett has plans for the youth programs, where he spoke about one just now. We're doing a lot of these clinics and sort of things, so that we really want to reach out to everybody, to as much people as possible. Because we keep saying it's the fastest growing sport in the world right now. So we can't be left behind. Trinidad and Tobago has to realize this is a sport that we must nationalize. It must be played in every nook and cranny of Trinidad and Tobago. And the only way that could happen is we as an executive and a fraternity have to go out and meet the people. Have to get it on television, have to get it on radio and that sort of thing. So that's the plan.
So you all have already sent in the proposal to the ministry and everything for funding and for everything?
All our funding,
the trips?
Our funding was going March of the previous year, 30th of March of the previous year. All of our funding requests are in. And one thing they can say, Rugby is never late. Rugby always has its house together, which was manifested.
Sometimes the check is late to you all.
Well, yeah. And I mean, a result of this, for the past 2 years, for the FCB Sports Awards, Rugby has been in the top 3. Right? Last year, well, for the year before, we were in the lower level. Right? Some other sport won. And for last year, we were in the upper level. So it means that we must be doing something right. Because if you were in the lower level the year before and you were in the top 3, to get into the top 3 in the upper level in 1 year, you must be doing something right. So we're confident of our approach, our approaches as to how to get this thing done, and we feel that we're on the right track.
Maria, the coach for the national women's team is not here, right? You as a member of the team have been to different competitions. So maybe I can ask you this question. What are the team expectations going into the Pan American Games? Where do you see yourself, in that tournament? Because I'm sure that you're going to be playing countries that you have already met. Some teams you have won, some teams defeated you all. What is going to make this Pan American game and this team going, different in comparison to the rest of the teams?
One of the things that we've been working on is a lot of goal setting and working together as a team so that the coaches and our technical team are able to communicate with us what their goals are, and we are also able to communicate what our goals are. That means that when we come together as a team, we know that we're all on the same page and we're all fighting the same fight for the same thing. The Pan American Games is going to be the highest level of competition that we have entered into, but we also have some very high goals for that. Just because it's a higher level of competition doesn't mean that we are going to expect less of ourselves. It does mean that we need to prepare ourselves and have understanding of the teams that we're going to be playing, the styles that they play in, and the amount of training that we need to do when we compare ourselves as athletes to the individual athletes that we are going to be coming up against. It means that we've been tracking, so our whole team has been assessed, and based on that assessment we have initiated our program, strength and conditioning, and when we do assessments we can progress our improvements to see what else we need to work on and really fine-tune our skills as athletes. And I think that that's something that's going to give us an edge, being prepared in that way, in that technical way, for that competition.
In all sports, you have, when a team is preparing to be selected, you have the training sessions, and then you have practice games, because you can train, and you can train, but if you don't get in a practice games, sometimes it could be an advantage to you going into a tournament. Are we going to be seeing the national team selected before and maybe a couple practice games? How is this going to operate? And again, that is asking for more money. So
yeah, one of the plans was for the team to travel to a tournament in Costa Rica. Unfortunately, as you said, the check came a little late, right? So we were unable to do that. What we've asked for is that they use that same money. We have asked the ministry, this sport company, well, of course, has to go to the ministry and Ministry of Finance to use that same money, vary that money, to allow for the team to be able to access it and travel earlier and pick up, tournaments before.
Okay.
Yeah. We haven't been able to identify any tournaments before to say, well, we can go now. So what we've asked for that money to be sent to us, to be still given to us, so that the team can leave, if it's a week up before, and be able to play tournaments on the way, along the way.
Okay, your development program, what do you see as the biggest hindrance in preventing you from really getting to what you really have set out to do?
I think there are a number of issues. One is the perception of the game. People still have the belief that the game is a dangerous game. I mean, I played sport all my life, and I ended up in the hospital on 2 occasions as a result of sport. And on both occasions, it was basketball. So basketball has injuries, football has injuries. People tend to believe that rugby has a lot of injuries, but I think that rugby, the laws protect the players more so than in a lot of the other sporting disciplines. That's one of the hindrances. Another thing is I think we've been standing in our own way for a long time. And when I say we, the rugby fraternity has been standing in its own way for a long time. And more and more we're recognizing the deficiencies in that type of approach. Because, for example, if you approach a sponsor and say, would you be interested in sponsoring rugby? The sponsor hasn't heard about rugby, or might ask a question, how many persons involved in rugby in Trinidad and Tobago? And you say about 300, 400, 500, 600, 800, and you're actually asking yourself the question, should I invest my sponsorship money in 800 persons, in an activity where it's 800 persons? So we're recognizing the deficiencies and standing in our own way, and I think we're seeing more and more we're able to grow. More than anything else, I think we need to create the structures that would allow for the development of the game. That is to say, we talk about 24 persons did a coaching program. We need to go to the next step, creating a coaching society. We've been having that conversation for the longest while, and until we're able to do that, the proper developmental training would not be taking place at the ground level, which means that we'd be impeding our own competitiveness at the top level. We have to create, well, the referee society, they have been doing a lot of good work, but as we create more teams, we're going to create more games, and as we create more games, we'll have a need for a greater amount of referees, so we need to strengthen the referee society. We just asked Colin about some of the things we're doing in relation to July. And we're doing, the executive, we're multitasking. And if we could get persons specifically focused on marketing rugby, that's a significant thing that we have to focus on. So we have to, the structures that we need to put in place, we need to focus on it. We could spread the game, we could teach the game to new people, but until we create the capacity to consolidate the progress from year to year, we'll be just like going back to ground zero, one step forward, perhaps two steps backwards. So I think the conversations that we're having now, they're significant in terms of the improvement that we want to make. I think we've been seeing where we've been going wrong, and we are attempting to correct it. And I think in the not too distant future, we would get the fruits of those efforts.
Okay, as I said before,
we also feel that we now have a proper product to run with, to sell. You know, and like for instance, we have 5 different clubs hosting individual 7-a-side tournaments. I don't think that happens anywhere in the Caribbean again. Right? We have been discussing it, and we want to market the 5 7-a-side tournaments as a package. Right, so we have to indulge the clubs and so on to get this done. And so we feel that we're in a good place now to, you know, really jump out. We really feel so.
But I need to take another break, and as I said before, I'm going to bring on the coaches of the respective teams to chat with them later on. But give each of you all 10 seconds to share anything you want to share with us.
Okay, rugby is it. We feel that we are the sport of the future, right? And we want to ensure that everybody has the information and is available to be part of it, right? We think so.
Maria?
I would just like to encourage all the athletes who are training hard right now, whether you are contending for a place on the national team, or you're coming out to your club, or you're playing in your school, all the work that you're doing is building rugby and making it stronger in Trinidad and Tobago.
Carl?
Yeah, more than anything else, I want to talk about the funding in these 10 seconds. The government is not in a position to fund activities in the way they've been doing it in the past. And we as a fraternity, or we as end users, we must recognize that we have a greater responsibility to fund our own way. And in saying that, there are lots of things that we do on a daily basis. We eat every day, we go to parties, we shop for novelty type events. If the rugby fraternity could create its own entertainment type arrangement, it could create its own food type arrangements with different partners, as the case may be. I just want to call on the members of the fraternity and even persons outside the fraternity, let's support our own. That's the only way we could get to grow the sport.
Whether you heard it from Carl Mucker, the Assistant Secretary, Maria Thomas, the Secretary, and the big man himself, the President, Mr. Colin Peters. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to have a couple of the coaches, and they're going to tell us what is happening with their respective teams. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after the short break.
You're now changing your question.
What I would say, Steve, is this.
My first question was, and roll back that tape.
I made my debut for Crystal Palace against Tottenham Hotspur.
My responsibility was to get the ball and make things happen offensively.
In all the time we've played together, I've always been the decoy. Welcome to Field of Dreams on ICNTT. My name is Steve David, and I'm your host.
Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to another edition of Scoreboard here on ACT, and it's always a pleasure to be in your company every Tuesday evening between the hours of 8 and 9.
Welcome to the new season of Football 101. I am your host, Joshua Matos.
Well, it's time for your weekly football news update. I love you, Messi.
Fortunately, kiss the badge, kiss the badge. Oh, what's that? Welcome to this edition of the interview, and as you can see, I'm not alone on the set. I have Marcus, a Liverpool fan, and I have Shakir.
Welcome back, viewers. Welcome back to Scoreboard on ACTN TV. And if you are now joining us, we are discussing tonight the topic of rugby. And joining me now on set are three of the coaches that is in charge of various teams that will be leaving our shores sometime in July for some major tournaments. And I have with me here Jerome Puntip, is the national men's under-19 coach.
Yes.
Welcome.
Hi, thanks,
it's a pleasure.
Good morning.
And I have Don Sucre. He's the coach for the women's tens.
Correct.
And Felician Guerra, the assistant for the men's
seven-a-side.
Gentlemen, again, welcome. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks.
All of you all have major roles in various teams that is in preparation for tournaments in July. So let me start with you, Jerome. Tell us a bit about your preparation and what's in store for the team.
Right, so I'm in charge of the National Under-19 Boys program, right? It's 15s that we're going to go play. We've commenced training since the end of, right after Carnival. We started our training with the training squad of 45 boys. We just cut down to 35 last week. So that's the process. As I'm preparing for July the 18th to the 21st in Barbados, which is the Rugby America North Under-19 Championship. So we consist of teams from Mexico, USA South, Barbados, Jamaica, Cayman, Bermuda, Bahamas, and ourselves this year. Unfortunately, last year we weren't able to compete last year due to the lack of funding that we were able to get or obtain due to the circumstances. So we didn't compete last year, but we've competed every other year before that. This year, we know the financial constraints, so the boys and the parents are doing their best to generate the funds to make this happen, as it was a big disappointment to a lot of the guys for last year. The Under-19 program is a stepping stone into the national senior team and to the club programs. Right, this is the first time that a lot of the boys will be exposed to international competition and pressure situations that will, for their development as for senior players, for the club or for the senior team. So my role is very important in regards to developing and bringing the boys together to understand the game, and hopefully they leave it as a better person as well as a better player for the next step for their development.
Is your first stint as coach?
No, actually this is my third year as the head coach, and 3 years before that I was also the assistant coach in the Under-19 program.
So it's a fairly new bunch of guys, or you have some of the guys who have been working with over a period of time?
So in the Under-19 program, you tend to have about 10 guys overlapping every year, but there's always a new set of guys coming through, new players I've never seen before. So for me, it's fun to see that. You always get new players, you're exposed to new players, they're always learning and they want to learn, right? And that's why I try to impart my knowledge and try to bring them to a standard that will help Trinidad rugby as a whole in general, for the guys like Mr. Guerra and guys for the senior 15th team and for the clubs. I started off, actually, before I started off in the Under-19 program, I started off coaching in the schools at St. Mary's College, and then also coached my Under-18 program in my club. And then from there was where we step into the national Under-19 team.
What's the mood in the camp right now, you know, with the team?
Well, the main mood right now is exams.
Okay.
So the challenge we have every year is that it's Under-19.
Yeah,
so a lot of the guys are in CXC or Cape. So it's that balance between being able to train and prepare for the exams, right? So it's a challenge we meet every year, but we're not the only country that has that. Every Caribbean country will have the same issues. So it's how we work with that. As I told them, you have to prioritize your schoolwork, because rugby is there too, but rugby might not be there forever. Your exam results or your high school diploma will help you get through your whole part of your life. So I try to teach them life lessons about balancing and being accountable. As they become grown men, they have to understand that, you know, there's accountability, and it's you as an individual are accountable for yourself, not me as a coach or your mother and father. You know, we can't always be there for you, so it's how they step up. And we try to give them that responsibility for things. So it's not just about the sport, it's off the field as well.
Yeah, because there's life after sports.
Right, exactly, we all know that.
Yeah. Don, tell us a bit about your charges.
All right. Well, first of all, we had a split in the selection with the team, because normally we had one team playing both 7s and 10s.
Okay.
But because of the 7 teams competing in 2 tournaments, the executive took a decision to have the 7s team focus basically on their competition. So more or less what we had is a number of players from the other clubs now coming out and having a chance to now represent their country on the 10 circuits. All right, so we have approximately 6 clubs from last year now, with players now coming to participate and try to make their name on the national team. So it's a total of about 40 players now trying to see if they can represent the country.
So you have a large
pool of
players. And how is the training going so far?
Training is very well. It's better than we expected. We have players coming from as far as Tobago and Labre, Gasparilla, all the way.
And you're training Port of Spain?
We're training Port of Spain. But I told them by next month, we're going to try and change it back. At least once or twice a week, we'll train south. So at least give opportunity for the other players, you know, to make it easier for them for training, and so for the other players in North to see how hard it is for a player to, you know.
Yeah, because you're coming from Labre, you're coming from Tobago, that's a real distance. That's commitment there by itself, you know?
Yeah, it is.
You are grouped with who in the tournament? Who are some of the teams?
Right now we have 8 teams, last I heard. I'm not too sure. They are still to confirm, but thus far it's Jamaica, USA South, Mexico, Barbados, I believe St. Lucia. But the other islands have yet to confirm.
Who are your biggest challenges
right now, honestly, will be Mexico, USA South, and Jamaica.
Have you all played them already? Yeah.
Well, last year we have not participated due to financial issues. But the previous year we were reigning champs.
Okay.
So we're looking to get back on to our title.
Well, maybe that miss from last year not going could act as a sort of motivation to,
it is.
You know, to get it going there.
We have a lot of young blood coming in now, so we have some girls who literally just finished secondary school, who have a lot of drive, fire in them to make the team.
All right. Yera, tell me a bit about your group.
All right, so one of the things that we all share in common is that we have a small pool to draw from.
Okay.
All right, so Don is unique in that he's one of the first coaches that will have a team that is separate and apart from the other team. Okay. So the 7th team preparation will not directly impact, even though there in the past would have been an overlapping. All right, Don is one of the unique coaches. So the players that I would be in my charges here would have also begun preparations for the 15-a-side earlier this year, which we weren't able to attend. All right, so that for us as coaches has set a good platform, because we would have got more time to prepare for the faster version of the game than we would have had in years gone by, because we would have had to let our players train for the 15th version and then come to the 7th version, which is also transitional tactically and mentally as well. So that is one of the things we have going for us this year. As a result, we've had a very strong strengthening and conditioning program. We've been working on we've been aligned with the HPU this year. All right, we hope that the results will pay off when we actually get to game time. We have worked with the HPU in the past, and it has shown reward. Couple years ago, we went to the Hong Kong Sevens. The HPU played a major part in that preparation process, so we hope that we could reap similar success this year. In terms of the mood in the camp right now, is about getting over those hurdles mentally and physically, so that we could start doing the fine tuning for the actual tournament itself, and that's where we are currently.
How does a coach pass on information to, well, I guess each of you will have a different experience, but you all have a team training to go to a major tournament, and just before the tournament everybody's hyped to go to this tournament, but you end up now no funding. How you as a coach, how do you relate that to your players and get them to accept it and move on and hope that the next year they'll be able to go. Because I know if I'm playing on a team, and especially if it's the first time, and I'm planning to go, and next thing I hear, we can't go again, no funding. I mean, if you ain't like the sports 100%, you can walk away. How do you all handle that? And I'm sure that somebody, I don't know, but I'm sure somebody must have asked all already. Are you sure we're going this year? Yeah. No, I am sure that a player has asked you all that already, especially if he was there when it happened. How do you all deal with that?
Well, part of that will fall into your player management and knowing your team. So it's not just about you as the coach alone managing that, but the leaders you have on the team as well. So you have to appoint persons that can help manage the mood and manage the focus, because you will not be with your players all the time, and there will be segments that click together at times. So you have to ensure that you have leadership that can manage that for you when you're not there. All right, and that's how you keep them focused and on task.
Where's your biggest obstacle right now that keeping you from really not taking your team to where it's supposed to be?
Well,
I know you spoke about exams.
My main thing is exams and
so,
that balance, so that's my challenge.
Commitment from the players. So I mean, we have two groups. We have a group of young girls who are actually going to school. Some go to CXC. Yeah, and then we have some of them, well, they have their own work commitment. So we have some in the force. Police force, defense force, Coast Guard, Air Guard. So we're trying to, our best to see how it is we can work around it.
So you all are, how prepared? 75%, 80%?
Well, the plan is not for us to peak too soon.
Right, okay.
So I would say in terms of my charges, we would be 55% currently, because we want to peak for the second day of the tournament.
Yeah, I would say we're about 50%. We basically cut down to 35, which is the 35 serious committed boys who prepared fairly mentally for this tournament. So now it's to get them prepared physically and tactically, but while balancing exams. So we have another 2.5 months before the tournament. So I'd say about 50%, we could say, we're now starting to progress.
One of the unique things we have this year is that some of the players that would have qualified to play for the under-19 team also qualify to play for the senior sevens team as well. Okay. All right, so it's another challenge that we've had as coaches in terms of managing the time that the players have to both contribute to both teams.
What about as coaches? You all training, and you don't have any practice games to really see if this player is really fitted for this position or for that position. I mean, you could do it in your training, but actually in a practice, in a game situation, you get a better view of the thing. Is that a hindrance to you all? Not before you go into a tournament, you're not having your team actually take part in a game situation.
I would say that it's not that they don't get a chance to take, but what they don't get is outside opportunities to do that. What we try to do locally to generate game experience is invite other teams. So like in the instance of the under-19 team, we would have had an under-23 group play against them or the senior team. All right, so it increases the difficulty and they get a chance to test their wares against more seasoned veterans. In terms of the sevens team, what we try to do is invite players who would have not been selected and give them a chance to run about with the guys who are going to represent the team. It's something that we've done in the past, possibles versus probables type situation. So it allows the persons to get that game time experience in an environment where we have more control as opposed to a tournament.
Okay. I would like the public to have a better view of who the coaches are. So share with me your background in rugby, where it started and things like that.
All right, so I would be one of the persons who would have gone through all the phases coming up. I started playing rugby at the age of 11 and represented the country for the first time at the age of 13 at the under-19 level.
Okay.
All right, I then played at the under-16 level and the under-19 level all the way up through the ranks, and then I graduated to the senior team at the age of 20 and then played 7-a-side rugby from the age of 24 to the age of 29. Right, I still do represent the country at the 15-a-side level national team, of which I'm the captain. I also referee and coach the under-18 club team for the club that I play for.
What would you say is your most your major accomplishment in your career as a rugby player?
As a player,
yeah.
Going to the Under-19 World Cup.
Okay. Yeah. How was that experience for you?
It was amazing. A lot. It was eye-opening to see the level at which the same age grade as us play across the board around the world. The gap was not as big as we thought it would be. However, the preparation was. In terms of athleticism, we were one of the more athletic teams there in our group, but we weren't able to translate that due to the inability to adapt to the conditions. It was really cool. We played some games at -2 and -4 and thing, and it's for the first time sometimes the players felt that type of temperature, so it did impact us some.
Right. Don, tell us a bit about your background.
Well, I started at 13 years old. I was a member of the Under-16 national team, last Under-16 national team, member of the Under-19 team for 2 years, and then from there I took up coaching at secondary school level, a number of schools, coaching at club level, Under-18 level, also the women's team for Caribs. Basically, I was the assistant coach for the first All-Star girls team that went on tour to Barbados in 2016. Team was very successful, and that is where the growth of underage rugby started feeding into the senior women's program from there.
Okay, Jerome?
Yeah, so my path is a little different. I actually didn't start rugby when I was in Trinidad. Okay. When I went, I left Trinidad after Form 5, I went to Canada, and that was actually when I started playing rugby, from like 16 or 17. Played for a few years up there, went to university, stopped, came back here for a couple of years, went and watched a trial, I think Under-19 trial game, and the bug caught me back, and I got back into it, joined the club, played, got into the coaching, still current player for my club, played nationals for the first time at the age over 30, and we won the championship that year, and continue to want to give back to the sport, on and off the field. Happily to coach and happily to still continue playing once physically able to.
You know, talking to you all here, rugby has achieved a lot, right? Rugby Union, World Cup, you know, major tournaments. But still, not much is known about the history or the performance of our rugby teams. Do you think that's one of the reasons that rugby is not a more popular sport than the other sports? Besides the fact that what Market spoke about, people tend to feel it's a dangerous game. But do you think that the population is sensitized enough about some of the achievements that rugby teams have gained over the years?
Look, I definitely think public education and the stigma of the sport, there's a stigma of the sport that everybody's not fully aware of, or they assume things. So I think that is definitely part of the issues. But rugby is one of the fastest growing sports, especially in the women's side in the world. The fact that the Sevens is in the Olympics now is just giving rugby a little more exposure. It's just like how the 2020 brought back cricket to everybody. That's how the Rugby Sevens is trying to bring back to the world, I think, to introduce back to rugby. But definitely public education or sensitization of the sport is definitely an important part, an aspect which I think we're a little step behind here in Trinidad, personally.
Okay.
And that's important.
Because anyone of you all have suffered any major injury during your career?
Well, that determines on what you would consider major.
Well, people already have this sport as a dangerous sport. So let's say maybe, you know, 2 break foot, you know, because 1 break foot really ain't a major thing. If you're 2 foot break foot, that's something else.
And that's one of the challenges we face, because rugby players by nature are usually very durable, and we even though we may experience injuries, we usually are able, so injuries that in other sports that would sideline somebody, a rugby player usually plays on through that. All right, but in terms of, for myself, the times that I have been sidelined were for football and a car accident related.
Not in rugby?
Not in rugby.
Yeah, see, and what about you done?
hamstring. Not
normal. Yeah. And
actually, I had a major injury. I had a torn ACL 2 years ago.
Well,
but it was a well, no, it was a non-contact situation.
Okay.
So I would say that could have happened in any sport or even walking. It was a dream my foot planted, and I wanted to go one way, and I didn't want to go. So it was not a contact situation.
The foot of our mind on your own.
Yeah, but as I say, most rugby players get injured playing non-rugby sports, football, basketball. So.
Gentlemen, we don't have much time again, right? But what I want to hear from you all is individually, what are your chances you see as the team in these tournaments that you're going to? And how do you see these teams performing? Let me start with Gera.
So for the past couple of years, we have been on the brink of medaling in these tournaments. We finished fourth a number of times. I think we are the point now where we can step forward, having this group together for a while now, and having new talent coming on. We are at the point where we could plateau, we could springboard and say that we can contest for the first place. Given that it's the same 3 teams that we usually compete against on the last day for the last spots. So I think we have a good chance. But our destinies are in our own hands, so our preparation and how we deal with the tournament from day to day, because it's a 2-day tournament, will determine how successful we will be.
What would you say is the major factor that causes us not to really get a top position?
I would say our greatest challenge is mental toughness. We struggle at times against particular teams that we have history with. Guyana being one, Jamaica being another, Mexico. The 3 teams that we usually compete for the top tier with, we tend to have some difficulties. Now we've overcome. Jamaica has been successful in the last couple tournaments, but we were able to defeat them at CAC.
Okay.
All right. So it's something that we've been working on with the guys, in believing in themselves and taking every opportunity, and creating that manifest destiny for themselves.
Okay. Don?
I think we have a very high chance of hitting the podium. We have a very dynamic group of girls. So, I mean, in events, anything happens, someone could always interchange in a position. So we are working hard, and I think we'll come out. We're looking to regain the title, what we missed last year.
Okay, Jerome?
Right. Well, we didn't compete last year, but for the 4 years previous, we've ended 3rd in every single tournament. Okay. Where the difference between playing for 3rd and playing in the final is literally one mistake or one decision. And based on Gera, is the mental toughness. It's to know how to play in that pressure situation and not let the pressure affect you. You know, but that's when you get when you're playing time, more exposure outside. Unfortunately, we don't have the benefit of that. But so I say it's the thought we're getting to the final or the 3rd. It was only has been one play, say one play that has changed that. So the boys are definitely here. We always have a chance and we compete to make the final. Well, that's why we play the sport. Anything can happen on any given day.
Well, gentlemen, let me wish you all the best. I hope that you all really go out there and achieve what you all have set out to achieve, because all coaches always go there to succeed and to get the #1 position. Congratulations on keeping the job, keeping the team, together and, focus. Because as I said, not going to a tournament and training, sometimes it could be a mind thing with the athletes, because they will always be wondering if we're going again, and sometimes that could be in the back here, So again, we know it's an election coming up just now. I know you all will get some real support. The Ministry of Sport, you'll write out check. Come on, we created history. It's the first time we're going to the Pan American Games. Right, so come out and give that support. If you miss any part of this program, there's a repeat tomorrow at 1 p.m. and we hope that you will join us. So I want to again thank the rugby fraternity for coming out and sharing this time with us. And you're going to be seeing a lot more of the players and what's happening with rugby as the date come closer for the major tournaments in July. So again, viewers, thank you very much. You want to share something?
Yeah, just one more thing. The women's 10 senior team have a fundraiser this Saturday.
Okay,
at the Hazley Crawford VIP lounge. It's a potluck, so it's $100 a ticket. You can contact the TTRFE office. All right, and it's $100 for tickets. You supporting us, you supporting a player. to represent the country at our regional tournament.
And that's this Saturday.
This Saturday. From 12 to 6.
Right, at the Hazy Crawford VIP.
Right. Yeah.
Good food. Well, we don't know if they could cook better or play rugby better when you taste the food. But go out and support. I mean, because they're not sitting around waiting, they are doing something. So go out and support. Again, we want to thank you for staying with us, and we hope that you'll join us next week, Tuesday. Same time, same channel. Have a blessed week ahead.
Thank you.